What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Turnbuckle Topics podcast. I'm your host, Pat Deneen, and this is my review of AEW Dynamite, which took place January 17th. Now, unfortunately, this was the one-year anniversary of the untimely and tragic passing of Jay Briscoe, one half of the Briscoe brothers, Mark and Jay Briscoe. Of course, what a storied career. 13-time Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions, amongst many other accolades between the two. So again, rest in peace to Jay Briscoe. I can't believe it's been a year already. I'll get to it later on in this review. Mark Briscoe did come out towards the middle of this show to speak on that briefly with some of his family as well, which is a very nice touch, great tribute, and I'm glad to see that's what took place. Definitely needed to be mentioned and honored on AEW Dynamite this past episode. So let's get right into this show. All right, we opened up with a TNT Championship match that we found out this past Saturday on Collision was going to take place. The natural Dustin Rhodes challenged Christian Cage, the two-time TNT champion, to a match. He says he's been after this title that's eluded him pretty much ever since he got to this company, going up against the likes of Brody Lee and many others. So he went after him, and it was actually a really good match. You know, say what you want. Christian Cage and Dustin Rhodes, guys that have been around for years upon years. Most of us grew familiar with them in WWE in the mid 90s. Goldust debuting prior to the Attitude Era. And of course, Christian with Edge and Christian and Gangrel, the Brood, coming in during the early stages of the Attitude Era. So, of course, seeing them wrestle for a title in 2024 was pretty surreal. But at the same time, they did what they could at this age, and it was damn good. I'll give them that. So, of course, Christian Cage made his way out with Nick Wayne and Killswitch, formerly known as Luchasaurus. And the natural Dustin Rhodes came out flying solo. Now, all things considered, like I said, this was a fun match. Take it for what it is. I mean, Christian Cage, I think all of us could agree that the past year plus, he is top notch, not just in AEW, but throughout the whole wrestling industry as a whole. On the microphone, he has been killing it day in, day out. And he's been doing just as well in the ring as well. So Dustin Rhodes, again, I think this year he's going to be retiring from in-ring action. I believe it was said, but he's probably still going to be a big part of AEW behind the scenes as far as having his own Dustin Rhodes Academy, which he's had for many years now, helping a lot of talent, not just within AEW, but many other companies as well. So now Christian, he was hit with a crossroads later on in this match where it looked like Dustin was going to get the win here. And then even Dustin went to the outside when Luchasaurus or Killswitch were trying to interfere here with this match. And Nick Wayne also trying to interfere. Nick Wayne took a Canadian destroyer on the outside also by Dustin Rhodes. So he was doing the damn thing. It looked pretty good for him, even though the numbers game was stacked against him. It looked like maybe he was going to get it done, but most of us knew what the outcome would be. And that's exactly what happened. Now, look, Dustin kicked out after a spear and a kill switch shortly after that in the midst in the center of the ring. So I was very surprised to see that. I thought Christian was going to seal the deal with that, but all it took shortly thereafter was just one more kill switch by Christian Cage to get the 1-2-3. And Christian put a bow on it, and still TNT champion going forward. No Adam Copeland on this past episode of Dynamite. Edge, formerly known as Edge. We didn't get to see him. Usually we see him more so on Collision. Christian lately, he's been pulling double duty, showing up on Dynamite, showing up on Collision, even if he's not wrestling on both shows, doing backstage segments and promos and so on, or vignettes. So it's good. You know, Christian's definitely a draw for sure. I'm not sure how much as far as breaking down the statistics and ratings and, what his numbers are when he is on TV. But I will say, from my standpoint, I speak for myself here when I say that he's very entertaining, and I think many would agree. Now, moving on after this matchup, we had a backstage interview. We saw Renee Paquette. Renee Paquette, I feel like we saw her at least 10 to 11 times on this episode of Dynamite. It was crazy. Every time you turned, it seemed like she was interviewing somebody. So props to her. She was working not double duty. She was working overtime beyond double duty tonight. Everywhere you turned, she was interviewing somebody, whether it was in the center of the ring, backstage, you name it. So Renee Paquette was with Swerve Strickland. And what he had to say here, she was with Swerve. And he said he'd be foolish not to be paying attention to the main event later tonight. It doesn't matter if it's Samoa Joe or Hook. He's focused on the world title now that the Continental Classic is over, as he was the talk of that tournament, although he did not win it. Renee Paquette then brought up Hangman Adam Page. Swerve Strickland went on to say he has eyes everywhere. Page is an impeccable performer, as of late beating Roderick Strong, Claudio Castagnoli, JD Drake, and so on. Strickland said even if God himself were to come down, Page would even have a chance against him, the way he's been, fighting as of late, especially. And I've said it on the last episode of Dynamite Review, Adam Page, I'm a big fan of his work as of late more than ever. I think his character work is just as good as his in-ring ability. And so he pretty much wrapped it up with saying, but look, all that being said, Adam Page lost to me twice, early October at Wrestle Dream and the middle of November at Full Gear. So he said, look, there's nothing left to prove against Adam Page. Whose house? Swerve's house. So again, Swerve Strickland laser focused on that AEW World Championship. Those were words he exactly uttered during that backstage promo as well, that segment. And so we'll see what happens. It looks, well, I'll get to, later in the show, we do see Swerve pop up towards the main event or after the main event. And so maybe we will see him involved at AEW Revolution March 3rd in a potential, title opportunity scenario. Next up after that, we had a first time ever duo of Trent Beretta and Orange Cassidy, the two-time international champion. Now, Orange Cassidy was filling in for Chuck Taylor of the Best Friends, who was out with an injury. And they were going up against one half of the Lucha Bros, Penta and Komander, who's been with them as of late, and Komander filling in for Rey Fenix. So typically, so many times we've seen the Best Friends go up against the Lucha Bros. Again, Trent and Chuck versus Penta and Rey Fenix, but Chuck is out, Rey is out. And so we have two new partners for each team here in Orange Cassidy and Komander. Now with Penta and Komander, of course, we saw Alex Abrahantes as usual out there with them. This would make for a fun trios match when they're all healthy. For sure, I'd be down to see that. So wrapping this up shortly here. Don't want to get too caught on this, although it was a good match. I did enjoy it. Trent Beretta hit his finish on Komander for the 1-2-3. Again, this first time pairing of Trent Beretta and Orange Cassidy was a success. And although Orange Cassidy has been aligned with the Best Friends basically since the beginning of AEW, 4 or 5 years, I found that to be quite surprising that even though he's teamed with them as a tag team, he's never teamed with Trent specifically. So it seemed to work out well for them. Now, there was a post-match celebration going on between the three, the typical Best Friends coming in for the hug. Orange Cassidy in the center of the ring, Trent from one corner, Chuck coming from the other corner, but that was interrupted when you heard the theme music from the Undisputed Kingdom. Out came Roderick Strong and the Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions Mike Bennett and Matt Taven. Now, as we all know by now, it's no secret Roderick Strong has made it abundantly clear the last couple of weeks that he's after Orange Cassidy and that AEW International Championship. So as soon as that music hit, I knew why he was making his way out here, that's for sure. Roddy wants that title opportunity. It looked like we were maybe going to get it tonight because Orange Cassidy, after Roddy had to say what he said as far as, that title that he's holding currently, the OC's holding is his. He says, all right, well, you want this match? You got it. Let's do it here tonight. So Roderick Strong took his T-shirt off, even though he wasn't dressed for a match. That's why I knew this was not going to happen. He was just wearing his jeans. And Orange Cassidy, per usual, wearing his jeans. That is his ring gear, the blue jeans. And it looked like it was going to happen. And then Roddy says, no, wait a minute. And he says, let's wait until March 3rd at AEW Revolution. And he basically went on to say a few more words. You have 6 more weeks to think about and be with this title that is soon to be mine when it happens. And I have a hard time disagreeing with Roderick Strong. I have a very, very good feeling that he will defeat Orange Cassidy when the time comes at Revolution. So the match has not been made official yet, or at least as of this recording. But I would not be surprised to see that made official for sure. Roderick Strong, Orange Cassidy should be a great match for this international championship. And I do think, again, that that Roderick Strong will dethrone him to add more gold to this Undisputed Kingdom and make them a force in AEW. I mean, I think that's what you should do, right? Make them a very strong heel stable. And so we'll see what happens there. Now we're backstage with Renee Paquette again. As I said at the beginning of the show, Renee was working her tail off throughout. And, has Hangman Adam Page now backstage. She was just talking to Swerve. Swerve had a lot to say, even though he gave high praise to Adam Page. At the end of the day, he did say, which was true, it was all facts, when Swerve said, look, all that being said, Hangman's on quite a run as of late. But look, when it came to me and him going up against each other, although they were both great matches at Wrestle Dream, at Full Gear, I beat him both times. Pretty much cleaned his hands of that and said, I'm moving on to the AEW World Championship, whether that's Samoa Joe or whomever else when the time comes. I'm going after that gold. I have nothing more to do with Adam Page. So again, Renee Paquette backstage with Hangman Adam Page. Adam Page says, you won't find another soul on this planet that needs the AEW World title as much as I do. He goes on to say, in 2024, I will make that title mine, and I will keep it that way as long as I can. Then Renee Paquette brought up Swerve Strickland, saying how Page cannot beat him, 0-2 as of late. And Page went on to say he doesn't think about Strickland at all, as he's not the world champion. Samoa Joe is. And God be with Hook if he should be the champion by the end of the night. So he's got a bullseye on whoever has that AEW World Championship. Clearly, Adam Page is going after them. And I get that, and I respect it. And he's on quite a tear, quite a run. I like his look, his demeanor, his presentation. I think it's all great. But the bottom line here is that he did lose to Swerve Strickland twice. So that being said, even though it wasn't, they weren't number one contenders matches, Swerve Strickland is the one who deserves this opportunity more than Adam Page, like it or not, folks. But look, if we're going to get a triple threat, which I don't want to jump the gun here, but if we do get a triple threat between Hangman Adam Page, Swerve Strickland, and Samoa Joe at Revolution, I am 1000% here for it if that's what we're going to get. If we're not just going to get Joe and Swerve. So that be that. But that was pretty much it as far as that was concerned, as far as that Adam Page backstage segment with Renee Paquette. And as I mentioned at the start of the show, unfortunately, it's been 1 year to the day since we lost Jay Briscoe in that tragic car accident. And so at this point in time on AEW Dynamite, it was around 8:45, 8:50 or so. Mark Briscoe was introduced. He made his way out. He said a few words, a few heartfelt words about, his brother, of course, Jay Briscoe, their long storied history, not just as a great, one of the greatest of all time tag teams for sure, not just recently, but without question. The resume speaks for itself, but not just as a tag team partner, but as a tag team partner in life. This was his brother that he suddenly lost, was with him all the time growing up, and their later days in pro wrestling on the road day and night. And so he said a few words. He also made mention that both of Jay's daughters, Mark's two nieces, were in that vehicle at the time of the accident. Now, the oldest daughter was said to, potentially never walk again. It was that bad. Her, injuries that she sustained in that car accident. And so it was really nice because at this point, he then had Jay's three children make their way out at the top of the ramp next to him, including the oldest daughter, who was said to potentially never walk again. And she walked out there with the younger sister and their brother as well. They all made their way out. They had a warm embrace together, the four of them, and it was really nice and heartfelt to see. Again, it's been 1 year. I can't believe it's flown by that quick, and I was very happy to see, as I'm sure everybody was, to see that she's able to walk and seemingly, so to speak, given the circumstance, are in good spirits. And Mark's doing a fantastic job, not just as an uncle, but as a human being to those children and the family. Seems like he's really the glue to that whole family and giving them something to smile about at the end of the day. So that was a very great segment. It was brief. It's all you really needed. This was then followed by a beautiful video tribute of Jay Briscoe. It was a couple of minutes, very similar to last year's tribute. It may have even been, a bit of last year's tribute, which was phenomenal as well. So either or, it was very nice to see. And as I fully intended and expected, that they were going to acknowledge Jay Briscoe tonight. So now here we have Renee Paquette yet again backstage doing another interview. And this time it's with the returning Young Bucks. They're donning their new mustaches, a whole different vibe, different attitude, certainly heels without question. And they asked Renee if she could please refer to them as, with their God-given names, Nicholas and Matthew Jackson, instead of just, Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks. They are executive vice presidents, and it's time to take this job more serious in AEW, they go on to say. Renee Paquette then brought up the temper tantrums and meltdowns with certain rumors, and Matthew cuts her off and said those rumors are all fake, but let's pretend they're true. What would she be willing to lose to maintain a thriving wrestling company called AEW if it meant losing friendships and ruining reputations? Matthew then says, hell yeah, he'd do it all over again, and then goes on to ask Renee if she got her paycheck this week and says, you're welcome. So clearly he, doesn't just feel like an EVP. He feels even bigger than that, the way he's been acting just in this interview alone. So Matthew then goes on to say, they used to say, change the world, and we were doing just that until they lost their way and the culture changed and toxicity seeped in. He then says it was due to lean into self-serving, superficial, quote-unquote, superstars, and says Sting is anything but that, as he's hopeful people talk about themselves the very same way they talk about Sting, presently, of course. And Sting is the last of a dying breed, he goes on to say, but in order to change the world, they need to say goodbye to Sting and anyone like him. Renee then asks if that is an official call out to Sting for his final match at AEW Revolution on March 3rd. And Nicholas looked at his phone and said, as EVP, they can pull some strings, and they both walked off. So all signs are certainly pointing to Sting and Darby Allin, who are basically well on their way. Well, they're probably not going to get to 50, but I'm pretty sure as of this recording, they're 46-0 all time. They're 3 years together as a tag team, starting at AEW Revolution 2021, just short of 3 years ago. So it looks like we're going to get the Young Bucks for Sting and Darby. Long story short, and I'm certainly okay with that. You know, it's not who I thought it would have been, but I'm okay with that. I don't have anybody else in mind who I would put up against Sting in a tag team capacity for his final match coming up in just a month and a half's time. So now here we had a match for the Ring of Honor 6-man tag team championships. The current holders of that, the 2-time champs, the Mogul Embassies, Gates of Agony, and Brian Cage, defending their titles against Bullet Club Gold's Switchblade Jay White and the Guns, Austin and Colton. Now, I noticed that Bullet Club Gold came out to new theme music. I'm not sure if it's necessarily specific for the Guns themselves, or it more so seems like it's for Bullet Club Gold as a whole for the group whenever they come out. Instead of just using Jay White's entrance music, he could use his for his singles matches. Guns probably still use their very own music for their tag team bouts, but for this whole trios bit, it seems like going forward, or even when Juice Robinson is back, this seems like it's going to be the original theme or the new theme for the group. So it was pretty good. I'm going to have to find out the title and artist, but from what I heard of it, it was real good. So this match, it was pretty enjoyable. I had a funny feeling that titles may change hands again. The Mogul MC 2-time champs, they initially lost these titles back at Rampage Grand Slam, I believe it was, in Queens in September, to the Elite, right? It was Hangman Adam Page and the Young Bucks, or the Hung Bucks, however you want to refer to them as, them also being 2-time Ring of Honor 6-man tag team champions as well. So anyway, this match went on. It was good. Let's jump right to the end here. Just when Prince Nana was on the apron and it looked like he was going to clock Jay White with one of those titles, Anthony Bowens of the Acclaimed, 1/3 of those AEW Trios champions, you said not so fast. He swept Prince Nana, or actually, he actually took the title from him because I believe Prince Nana was actually still on the ring. So he didn't swipe Prince Nana off the ring, but he did grab the title from him, preventing him from hitting Jay White while the referee's back was in fact turned. And Jay White was able to hit Bishop Khan with a Blade Runner, getting the 1-2-3, Bang Bang Gang, get the win, and new Ring of Honor 6-man tag team champions. That was a very interesting encounter. Of course, now the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn, the last couple of weeks, have been trying to establish some semblance of an understanding, working amongst one another, some kind of a peaceful treaty between the two teams. So we'll see what this means going forward. Of course, Billy Gunn being with the Acclaimed, the Guns, both of his sons being with Jay White and Bullet Club Gold. We'll see. It certainly looks like if it does work out and the two teams are able to come to some kind of a compromise or agreement to have one another's backs going forward, I think it would be mainly because Austin Gunn seems like he's the one who's most receptive to this whole idea of, hey, we could work things out amongst one another. We can make this happen for whatever reasons. I'm not so sure. But it is always nice to know that you're going to have somebody that's going to have your back outside of your own posse, I guess you could say. And especially because, well, even though they haven't been on the best of terms the last year and a half, Billy Gunn, their father, is part of this group with the Acclaimed. So I think they could trust their father going forward. They were the ones who turned on him in the first place. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that going forward. Maybe they potentially merge the titles. That'd be very interesting. Would they merge the Ring of Honor 6-man championships with the AEW Trios championships? That's a possibility as well. So we'll see what happens. But that was good to see. Now, following this, this win by Bullet Club Gold and this exchange at the top of the ramp with, the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn, looking at them from a distance, we see a backstage segment with Adam Cole and Wardlow, the other two remaining members of Undisputed Kingdom, who we hadn't seen earlier in the night with Roderick Strong and the Kingdom, Mike Bennett, Matt Taven, the Ring of Honor tag champs. So Adam Cole backstage with Wardlow. Cole said he hasn't even scratched the surface on what Wardlow is capable of. Being in the Undisputed Kingdom makes Wardlow unbeatable, as he'll go down as the most dominant AEW wrestler of all time. Wardlow will mow down everyone until there's nothing left, and the AEW World Title is property of the Undisputed Kingdom. Wardlow then ended that whole segment after Adam Cole said all that by simply saying Adam Cole's typical boom, and that was it. So I like that. It was good. It was good to see them featured on television, not so much just Adam Cole, but Wardlow. If he's not going to be out there wrestling, I want to at least hear from him, even though it was just one word. It was significant, saying, look, when he does strike, we're not sure when it's going to happen, but Wardlow is going to be on an absolute tear with one of the most significant up-and-coming factions, at least from the heel standpoint, in AEW. They were only officially made a team 2.5, 3 weeks ago when they turned on MJF at World's End, Adam Cole officially being labeled the leader, seeing them on AEW Dynamite being introduced with the Undisputed Kingdom name on January 3rd. And so we'll see what happens going forward with this group. All right, so it's 9:20 at this point. You know what that means. I guess it's time for either an AEW women's segment, vignette match. Which will it be? Because we know it won't be all three. Shoot, it won't even be two. Unfortunately, that's a whole other story I could get caught up on every episode of Dynamite or Collision or even Rampage, but I don't cover Rampage typically. But I mean, man, the women just need better treatment in this company from the standpoint of booking. What are we doing here? The show is almost more than halfway over at this point, almost 2/3 of the way over, and you're getting your first women's match. And again, it's the only time we've really seen any women on AEW television, with the exception of Renee Paquette running back and forth from the backstage area to the ring doing interviews. That's it. So where are the women? Come on, TK, do better. So here we have Deonna Purrazzo, the virtuosa, making her way out after a successful win this past Saturday on her AEW debut match against Red Velvet, getting the job done here for her second match. She hit Anna Jay, a pretty good match. Anna Jay has been looking better. Take that however you want. But honestly, in all sincerity, she's been looking pretty good in the ring the last couple of weeks. We've been seeing a lot of Anna Jay since the very start of 2024. So I hope to see it continue, really. Purrazzo got the job done. She made Anna Jay tap out to her Fujiwara armbar, and that was that. So post-match, we had Renee Paquette in the ring with Deonna Purrazzo. And by the way, ringside during this match was the AEW Women's World Champion, Timeless Toni Storm, who made her way out before both of these ladies got in the ring in the first place. She was there ringside with both Luther, her butler, and Mariah May. So post-match, again, Renee's in the ring with Deonna Purrazzo, and Purrazzo says she doesn't know what's gotten into Toni Storm, as they used to be sisters. It's clear Storm has changed, but so has Purrazzo, the greatest technical women's wrestler, the virtuosa. Storm was insulted and sat on Luther's shoulders while calling Purrazzo an artificially tanned hag. Storm said she would go and sock her in the face, but instead threw it to commercial break, and Mariah May threw a shoe at Deonna Purrazzo, something Storm warned her to watch for. Storm, still on Luther's shoulders, then retreated to the back. It was actually very entertaining. She makes all kinds of television great, whether she's wrestling or just doing backstage or part of her vignettes that she's done for months with RJ City. We know Toni Storm and this character are absolutely thriving. And so this match with her and Deonna Purrazzo, which I'm going to assume is going to take place at AEW Revolution March 3rd, the Greensboro Coliseum, should be a great match. Now, if I'm Tony Khan, I don't do it right away. I mean, she was just signed a couple of weeks ago, Deonna Purrazzo. I certainly wouldn't have Toni Storm drop to Deonna at Revolution. I'd make it one hell of a match, even if it takes cheating, even if Mariah May has to get involved to help Toni or Luther. I would not have Deonna win this match, but we'll see what happens. Nonetheless, it's going to be a very entertaining storyline the course of the next month plus, and we'll see what happens between the two. But I did enjoy this greatly. Again, the only women's match of the night, the only women's segment of the night. And so I'm glad they at least had a post-match exchange, which was entertaining. But it shouldn't just showcase two women. It shouldn't just be Toni Storm and Deonna Purrazzo. Okay, that's your world title picture. How about your TBS champion, Julia Hart? Which, don't get me wrong, we do see her quite often, even if it's on Collision or one of the shows, we do see her. But why is it that we only see women barely, only if they have a title, and then their opposition just ends up taking losses to them or whatever? Where are the feuds and the storylines without the title involved? You got to keep all these other women involved in some capacity as well, and it doesn't really seem to happen unless you're on Ring of Honor or thrown on Rampage for 2 or 3 matches that people don't nearly watch as much as Dynamite on Wednesday or even on a Collision on a Saturday night. So next up here, we had a tag team matchup between Private Party and Top Flight. Now, I was happy to see this match take place for a couple of reasons. One being we haven't seen Private Party in the ring together in over 13 months, and that's because Mark Quinn was out with a right pectoral injury, put him on a shelf for quite a while. So Isaiah Cassidy, Brother Zay, however you want to refer to him as, that's why he was teamed up with the likes of Matt Hardy for so long, and then the Hardys for a while. So at least they had something for Cassidy in the meantime, Isaiah Cassidy, that is. And the same could be said about Top Flight. You know, Dante Martin made his return just a couple of months ago. For the better part of a year now, we had seen Darius Martin teaming with Action Andretti in tag team action, whether it was Ring of Honor or AEW, which they made a great tag team as well. Don't get me wrong. But it seems like the injury bug is just hitting all of the tag teams, whether it's Best Friends, as I mentioned earlier in the show, Lucha Bros, Private Party, Top Flight. But at least for this match on this very night, Private Party and Top Flight were healthy, and I am pleased to say that the match did end with everybody healthy as well. So I was just hoping everybody could, stay in the best of shape as well. So these two teams, again, riddled with injuries, but glad to see them out there. The way this match wrapped up, I was a little surprised that he did it, but look, he's just getting shaking off that ring rust. He's been out a while, so I'll forgive him. I'll give him a pass on this one. Mark Quinn of Private Party went to hold the ropes while pinning Darius Martin to get the victory here. So the Private Party gets the win. I thought Private Party would get the win too, being that they haven't wrestled with one another or as a team in over a year. So that was good to see. Glad to see them back on AEW television. And I'd really be interested to see a trios match between these two teams. If you obviously add in Action Andretti with Top Flight, and who I would add with Private Party is somebody that we typically saw team with Top Flight prior to Dante Martin getting injured in 2022, early 2023, whenever they would have a trios match, is AR Fox. I think that would be very entertaining and surprising to see. I'm pretty sure he is still signed with the company. At least I hope he is. Even if they're not going to utilize him on AEW, which is a crime, but I could say that for numerous wrestlers who should be featured on AEW more, both men and women. AR Fox could easily dominate on Ring of Honor as well. I mean, this past summer, when I was at the Death Before Dishonor show in July, AR Fox was part of that show, and he put on a phenomenal showing. I believe it was against Shane Taylor. So that being said, I would be very curious to see AR Fox teaming up with Private Party in a trios versus Top Flight and Action Andretti. That'd be fun. So after this, they have a brief video package with the Icon Sting and Darby Allin talking about how they are 46-0, as I mentioned earlier in this show. And, they've been an unstoppable force in tag team over the course of the last 3 years. Obviously, in a month and a half, his final match coming up at Revolution looks like it's going to be against perhaps the Young Bucks. They would like to get some tag team gold in some way, somehow. That's what I would ideally love to see. I'd love to see Sting retire as a champion. Obviously, not as a singles champion. That's just not in the cards at this point in time. But being that him and Darby have had so much success, whether it was Ring of Honor against the Kingdom or if it was against even, Big Bill and Ricky Starks on AEW, I'd love to see them get a tag team victory and a tag team championship title and Sting go out on top the way he should. But gold or not, he's still going to be an icon to all of us. And that's that. So it was good to see that. But this led us right to our main event for the night. Say what you will about the match. Obviously, a lot of people we're not crazy about Hook going up against Samoa Joe, even though TK made it known a week and a half ago on Twitter. Hook is 28-1, now 29-1 going into this match. Very long streak of wins for him for quite some time, only one loss. And look, my thing wasn't so much Hook getting the opportunity against the AEW World Champion Samoa Joe. It was more so the simple fact of how hard they were promoting it over the past couple of weeks. It's like, all right, I get it. You have a hungry Hook, a young up-and-comer going up against an established veteran in the game, multi-time champion in Samoa Joe. And look, we all knew Samoa Joe was going to retain. And I'm happy for Hook. I am. I'm happy that Hook got this opportunity on this stage in the main event. Everybody's like, oh, it's Taz's son. He would never get these opportunities if he wasn't Taz's son. Taz is on commentary, works backstage, etc. And even though that may be partially true, I don't discount the kind of wrestler Hook is. I do think he's a good wrestler. Obviously, I'm sure he got kind of pushed to the top in the sense of getting this opportunity because perhaps his dad is Taz. You can't discount that. You can't. But the only thing for me was the fact that this match was being pushed in our face so hard, like it was this mega matchup that we've all been dying to see. No, believe me, nobody was dying to see this match. Nobody at all, and it's no disrespect. I do like Hook. I've enjoyed him the past couple of years on AEW. I think he's well on his way. Needs work here and there in certain areas with maybe promo ability and stuff like that. Even though he's got that cool, calm demeanor, I get it. It's part of his character. Very good in ring. Uh, very good wrestler, but at the same time, nobody was chomping at the bit for this match. But so be it. Joe took it to Hook immediately. He wasted no time during this match. Joe spiked Hook on the commentary table early on in this match. Vicious Uranagi on the commentary table, collapsing the table. And so it looked like Hook was hurting really badly. He didn't even have any time to regroup because he also then was followed by a power bomb on the ring apron from Samoa Joe. So he had that vicious Uranagi onto the commentary table, through the commentary table, followed by this brutal power bomb on the ring apron, obviously the hardest part of the wrestling ring. Now, this was getting so hard to watch that Taz even said, look, I got to take my headphones off, being that he's at the commentary table or what was left of it. And he said, I got to remove myself for a little bit, regroup, and step away, make sure my son's all right. Hook was checked on by the doctor. He's got no quit in him. And I respect that about Hook. I really do. I think that's what's even gotten him to this point. Even if you don't like Hook as a wrestler or, think he's lacking in certain areas, I think we could all agree that he's got the heart of a lion. He does not quit. And so he was checked on by the doctor. Hook said, I'm fine. He got right back in there. A muscle buster by Joe. It looked like this was going to be it. A Joe pin attempt. Hook kicked out at 1. That pissed Joe off. He says, what? It's not like he just kicked out right before the 3 or at the 2. He kicked out at 1. It's the ultimate slap in the face when you couldn't even keep anybody down for more than a 1 count, especially after hitting him with a move like a muscle buster. So obviously this pissed Joe off a lot. Following this, Hook gained some immediate offense, which I was excited to see. But shortly thereafter, after this initial offense that Hook was able to regain and look like he was getting some momentum behind him, I'm not going to say it looked like he was going to win by any stretch, but it looked like Hook was going to, hook on, shall I say, his red rum. Joe blocked it, turned it into the coquina clutch, and in a matter of moments, it was over. That was it for Hook. And still, as we all knew it would be, AEW World Champion Samoa Joe, and his quest is just getting started. I personally believe he's going to be a champion, the champion for a very long time. I'll say it right now. I'll call it right now that Samoa Joe will be AEW World Champion at least, at minimum, until Double or Nothing. What is that, Memorial Day weekend or so? So he's got quite a ways to go. He's got the end of May as world champion minimum. He'll make it through Revolution in what's likely to be that triple threat versus Swerve and Hangman. He'll find his way out while those two go back and forth against one another. And so that's all I got to say about that. Now, following this match, just when we thought Hook was in the clear, he didn't get the victory, but at least the match was over. The bell was rung as Joe was making his way up the entrance ramp. Hook gets on the microphone and he says, "That's all you got?" Samoa Joe, immediately pissed off about hearing that. Joe runs back in the ring, kicks Hook in the crotch. This was also followed by another muscle buster. And it was like, when's Hook going to learn his lesson? Taz, his father, on commentary saying, look, I would love to tell Hook to stop, but there's no quit in him. He doesn't know when to stop. So he's a grown man. Let him make his own decisions. And that's exactly what happened, even if it's going to cost him. Now, it looked like Joe was going to get back in the ring after that initial muscle buster and take it to Hook one more time before he could even speak on the mic yet again. But then Hangman Adam Page's music hit. He made his way out, cleared the ring. He ran Joe right out of the ring, made sure Hook was all right, got him stable, and got him back up to his feet. Hook made his way out of the ring. And then we see the emerging Swerve Strickland with Prince Nana I believe it was from the side of the ramp or in the crowd area. And he appeared as well. And again, that's when it sparked to me. I said, as much as they've been talking the last couple of weeks about the world title, both Swerve and Hangman both had segments backstage with Renee earlier in the night in during hour one. And now they both made it out during post-match of the AEW World Championship. All signs are leading to a triple threat between Joe, Swerve, and Hangman. I'm here for it. That's fine. And Hangman and Swerve had a stare down before the show went off air. And that was pretty much it. That was AEW Dynamite. the January 17th edition, and I thought it was pretty good. Again, the biggest thing to me is giving these women more opportunities on your TV show. I mean, Dynamite, as far as I can recall, out of all their shows, Ring of Honor, AEW Rampage, AEW Collision, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Wednesday night is the show that people tune in for, mainly for AEW. You know, if you want to showcase your talent, your storylines, where you guys are headed, what direction, hopefully up, Wednesday night is the place. Yeah, Collision's great on Saturdays. That's enjoyable. Rampage, some people tune in. And Ring of Honor, I mean, you have to have that subscription. I don't know how many subscribers they have. That's besides the point. We're talking AEW here, technically Ring of Honor being a different company owned by Tony Khan, even though some people bounce back and forth. So they've got to do better by their women's division. They've got to have storylines outside of the World Championship and the TBS title. It can't just be Tony Storm or Julia Hart and set opponents for either of those women. We need to feature other women. That's the bottom line, regardless who you name. You can name Red Velvet. You can name Ruby Soho. It doesn't matter. I can't wait till Jamie Hayter returns. I'm not sure she should be back sometime soon, I believe. Not sure when her friend Britt Baker will be returning. There's countless women to name in AEW that we should be seeing that we're not. Again, that episode I did last week with the associate of the Dynamite review, where we were mentioning, and well, me specifically mentioning Athena. All right, it's all well and good that she's been Ring of Honor Women's World Champion for the better part of 14, 15 months. But why is she just stuck to Ring of Honor? Let her drop the title, even if it's at latest, WrestleMania weekend. Have her drop the title, put her on the main roster. And again, as much as I would love to see her in a title picture on AEW, which I think she solely deserves, whether it's the World Championship or the TBS title, even if you're not featuring her in a title opportunity, put Athena on there, let her rack up some wins in some non-title opportunities, making her way up to a number one contender at some point for either of the titles. I mean, what are we doing here? Not seeing Athena on Dynamite or Collision is robbery. It really is. So, whoever your favorite is in the women's division, AEW, is a very good chance you're not seeing them because they're not on the show, unless it's Tony Storm or maybe Julia Hart or potentially Sky Blue and so on. So that's that, folks. That's my review of AEW Dynamite. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the show if you did catch Dynamite on Wednesday night. So thank you for tuning in. As always, I'm your host of the Turnbuckle Topics podcast, Pat Deneen, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks for listening.